Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. FPL Vincenzo here, and I thought it was a good time to start having a look at what's coming in terms of AFCON. So we've now reached FPL game week 11, and AFCON is soon on the horizon. Obviously with players like Salah, Ismail Assar, Ilman Ndiaye, there are players that are off to AFCON soon that have reasonable ownership, players that either are owned right now or even managers might be looking to bring in for a short run of fixtures. But obviously these managers will know that at some point soon, the same players will need to be sold. But I think it's one of those topics right now, at least for me, before making this video, that I was aware of, but not completely knowledgeable about. So I assumed there will be many in the same boat as me, just to try and get a better understanding. So this is more general. I'll do another pod, at least one more, before we get to the AFCON period, looking at maybe better strategies and ways to approach it. But for now, I thought it would just be quite good to get out there sort of what we do know, sort of key dates, key players, sort of just key information really around the event. And because I think it's time to start planning now. You know my way of playing by now. I like to be ahead of the curve. I like to be ahead of bandwagons. And I think it'll be quite easy with AFCON for it to sort of creep up on people. And you can get to game week 14, game week 15, and you'll be getting excited because it will be more topical amongst content creators, more topical in the fantasy football landscape. But I think there's an edge to be had if you start planning for it now. So that's what we're going to try and look at here. So hopefully we can be a little bit helpful. So we'll start with the key info. And I've taken this directly from the official Premier League website, and with some keynotes on the side. So we're coming into game week 11 now. Obviously, we get one free transfer. We also get one free transfer in game week 12, 13, 14, 15. Game week 16 is the critical week here because people should be aware, it's been highlighted before, that because of AFCON this year, everyone's going to get a transfer top-up, we'll call it. So in game week 16, every manager will begin game week 16 with 5 transfers. So in reality, you want to make sure you use all of your transfers ahead of that, because if you've rolled 3 free transfers into game week 16, you'll be topped up with 2 additional ones. If you've rolled 4, you'll be topped up with 1. Obviously, if you've used them all by game week 15, you'll be given 5 free transfers. So I'm sure none of us are particularly completely happy with our teams. We've all got 1 or 2 players that we'd rather not have, and players that we never quite get around to moving on. This might be the opportunity to do it, because, say, number 1 rule here for me is that at the end of game week 15, and it's written in the paragraphs here, the paragraph that starts strategically, in order to fully profit from the extra free transfers, managers would be wise to ensure they have 0 free transfers in the bank by the end of game week 15. So that's the key thing here. You've got 5 free transfers to use by the end of game week 15. Obviously, some managers right now would have rolled already. Myself, I've got 2 free transfers going into game week 11. So I've got 6 to use by game week 15. So have a think about what African players you have, because obviously they won't have fixtures from game week 16 onwards because they'll be away on international duty. So have a think about when you might want to use them. Do you want to keep your AFCON players right up until the end? Do you want to get them out earlier and set your team up a bit better for the future? Because as an example, I've got Brian Mbeumo in my team. Now, we'll get onto him in more detail in a second, but he's quite expensive, sort of 8.1, 8.2 million. If I want to use those funds to upgrade other positions, let's just say I want to use that as a block. There's no point. What I could do here is wait till game week 16 to move him. And I'll have 5 free transfers topped up by the game. But if moving him is delaying me also moving someone else on, or maybe multiple other players on, let's just say right now I've got a cheap player I really want to upgrade, but I need the Mbeumo funds to really do it, then wait until the top-up maybe isn't advisable. I might want to get that done with the 5 free transfers I have before that, so I can set myself up properly and then use game week 16 as like almost like a new wild card, isn't it? Because we're going to get the official second one in the second half of the season. But it's quite rare to actually get to the point where you've got 5 free transfers in hand. That is effectively a mini wild card. So my loose plan right now, and I don't know if I'll stick to this directly, is that I want to set my team up not to really have to be forced into making too many moves from in game week 16. So I'll probably sell in Buemo in advance. If I've got Dewsbury Hall in my team, if I decide, for example, I want to upgrade him with the Mbeumo funds, they could be my game week 14 and 15 transfers. Mbeumo out, downgraded, Dewsbury Hall out, upgraded. So in game week 16, then I've got a really clean slate in terms of my future moves. And at any point between 16 and sort of 25, let's just say we get some doubles dropped in or some blanks dropped in or something like that, I can basically use my 5 free transfers like a wild card to then set up for that. And then my actual official wild card can then be delayed for sort of a game week 29 sort of time when we know the FA Cup causes some blank game weeks. Game week 32, 34, we know is sort of double game week time. So that's the main point you can read. You don't need me to read it out word for word for you here, what the official Premier League site's saying. It's on the screen. But that's the critical line for me, the one that starts strategically. So just wanted to make the point here that you want to be using all your transfers by game week 15. So have a plan for that. And if you've got certain expectations that you want a certain amount of points from your transfer, or you don't want to be using, which we say 1 week punts, you might want to start thinking about sort of using any excess transfers sort of from now. We kind of already know game week 13 is quite a good fixture swing. That might be quite a good time to use 3 or 4 moves if you can get to that point. And then say 14 and 15, make sure you use your 1 free transfer. Moving on, so here's some AFCON dates now on the slide. So I'll put the dates up for when the group stages are, the last 16 quarterfinals, semi-finals, the third place playoff, and the final. For those that were thinking maybe I've got an AFCON player that I really want, I don't want to sell them, maybe I can just keep them permanently on my bench for the duration of AFCON. I don't think that's a possibility here. AFCON starts on the 21st of December. That's the first matches, which is FPL game week 17. The group stage finishes on the 31st of December. So even representatives from those countries that don't do very well at AFCON, they're going to miss definitely 3 game weeks, realistically 4. They'll do well to get back for the fixtures on the 3rd of January. So everyone at AFCON is probably going to miss 4 games, game week 17, 18, 19 and 20. Those players playing for countries that are likely to do quite well are probably going to miss up to game week 23. So that'll be 7 game weeks away, game week 17 to game week 23. There's also a possibility, obviously, that although the tournament starts on the 21st of December, some international managers might want to assemble their squad a bit earlier for extra preparation. We haven't got confirmation of that yet, but it's more than possible some players won't equally play game week 16, which starts the 13th of December. That's 8 days before the first group stage match. It's more than possible some AFCON players would have already travelled by then to go into camp. So those players that will at least be confident of making the semi-finals here are going to really be away and miss 8 game weeks from game week 16 to game week 23. So I think this sort of cancels the need really to hold African players on your bench, because can you cover without them for 8 game weeks? It feels quite excessive. Just make a note here of these dates. So yeah, game week 17 is officially when AFCON starts. Game week 16 is the week before. Will players be asked to travel to international duty early in terms of preparation? Here's now a list of the players that are going. I've colour-coded them. Green, I think, are players that are more likely to be owned. So Egypt, there's Salah there, Marmoush there. South Africa's got Mbeumo. Maybe people have got Lyle Foster as a third striker. Senegal have got Njai, Ismail Assar, maybe Malik Diouf, quite important. Yellow, we've got Nigeria with Aina Bassi Iwobi, Wan-Bissaka there for Congo, Atara for Burkina Faso, Aid Nouri for Algeria, Ivory Coast, they've Gesand, Ahmad, Adingra, Agbadou, plus others. On the screen right now is obviously a list of the key players that are going and when they play their first AFCON match. And also one key friendly that might be notable. So I said on the last slide, game week 16 is when we get our AFCON top-up. in terms of transfers is the game week that starts the 13th of December. Would players travel a week early to join up with their camp? Egypt and Nigeria have a friendly scheduled in advance of AFCON on the 14th of December. Obviously, bad news then, particularly for Mo Salah, that assuming he's going to be asked to play in that friendly, we don't know for definite yet. Obviously, the squad hasn't been announced, but he's more likely than most here to miss game week 16 because there's a friendly on the same weekend. Even in his case, if the manager still wants camp early, could he even miss game week 15? Because I say that their camp for Egypt and Nigeria might start ahead of the other nations because they've got this friendly to prepare for as well. So be aware of that friendly date. It's probably slipped under the radar a bit that's taking place, Egypt, Nigeria, so players involved in that. Also be a little bit aware of the first AFCON matches. So that's the order I've put them in here. Those teams that are playing first at AFCON. There's groups, the first group stage matches are spread across the 22nd, the 23rd and the 24th of December. For those playing on the 24th, so it's Burkina Faso with Utara, Cameroon have got Baleba, Algeria 8 Nouri and Ivory Coast with Ghessand, Ahmad, Adingra and Agbadou. Because they play on the 24th, that might make them, this is a might, we don't know, might make them more likely to feature in game week 16. Because obviously their first game is 2 days after the likes of Egypt, South Africa, Zimbabwe. So just bear that in mind, that those playing on the 22nd may get called up earlier than those playing the 23rd or the 24th. If you've got players in your squad that are in those teams that play later, let's just say Njai playing the 23rd for when Senegal play Botswana, would that give him a little bit more freedom, a little bit more license to definitely play in game week 16? I think one player here to be particularly notable about is Bryan Mbeumo. So South Africa do play that first round of fixtures on the 22nd against Angola, which is quite important. What's also notable is the game weeks right before AFCON, Man United have Monday night games. So on the 15th, which is obviously game week 16, they play Monday the 15th. It's Man United against Bournemouth, where obviously other teams will play Saturday the 13th or Sunday the 14th. So does that make Mbeumo more at risk of missing game week 16 because the club game is on the Monday night, not the Saturday? Obviously, if you're playing on a Saturday, let's take Everton as an example. Game week 16, Everton are playing Chelsea. Njai could play in that game and straight after the game travel to international camp and be there maybe late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. If Mbeumo's playing Monday night, realistically, he's not going to travel till Tuesday morning. And we know that South Africa are now kicking off first in the AFCON games on the 22nd. So I think there's risk here with him, probably more than most here, Bryan Mbeumo, that he might have to miss game week 16 because of the Man United fixture schedule and the South Africa fixture schedule. It's not an ideal combination that Man United play the Monday, South Africa play on the 22nd. So just bear things like that in mind. The players you have when the club games are in game week 16 and game, maybe even game week 15, or they're playing Saturday, Sunday, even Monday. When the international matches are 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and say be extra aware of this friendly between Egypt and Nigeria, which is scheduled for the 14th. Keep your eye out for news on that and which players may be called up. You never know, someone like Salah may get dispensations to not play in that game and get an extra week off and not play the friendly and just join camp late. He's clearly Egypt's star player. So just a little look here at the key teams. So the four at the top, I think, are the four that we own players from for AFCON. So I say Liverpool have got Salah, Everton have got Njai, Crystal Palace have got Sarr, Man United have got Mbeumo. And underneath Newcastle, Man City, Brentford, Bournemouth, I think they're logical teams that we might want from game week sort of 15, 16 onwards. They teams to have quite good fixtures. So just done some colour coding here, looking at the players at the top, how the fixtures look, maybe hop off points for those players and when you want to do it. So if you look at Liverpool, I say if you own Salah, or you're maybe even thinking about bringing him in for a short burst because they do have Nottingham Forest, West Ham, Sunderland, Leeds, 12, 13, 14, 15. I think you could bring him in. Liverpool have improved a lot in the last week against Villa and Real Madrid. There were clear signs of improvement. If you want him, when do you sell him and who do you move him on to? I say in his case, it's an extra consideration because of that Nigeria friendly. Everton with Njai, obviously game week 16, you'd sell him anyway with the 5 free transfers. Do you want to sell him in advance of that? He's got Fulham this week. We don't know if he's going to be fit yet. I think he got a knock in the Monday night game with Sunderland. Man United, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Forest. Are those fixtures good enough that he's worth holding? Could he just be gotten rid of in advance of that? Just as a sort of a differential here, Kevin Schade from Brentford, who's maybe a bit under the radar as an FPL pick, from game week 13 has Burnley, Arsenal, Tottenham, Leeds. Could you sell Njai in game week 13, miss out Newcastle, Bournemouth, Forest, and get Schade for Burnley, Arsenal, Tottenham instead? And then obviously Brentford's fixtures continue beyond that. Maybe. Same with Crystal Palace with Sarr. I think they've got a really nice next 5, but we spoke on the pod last week about their general congestion because of involvement in cups, Europe and domestic. So lots of fixtures. Do you want to keep Sarr all the way to AFCON? Maybe he could be your final game week 15 transfer. You play in Brighton, Wolves, Man United, Burnley. Fulham away is a fine game in game week 15. Maybe you just get rid at that point. And maybe a Man City midfielder could be an option at that point from Sarr. Obviously, they've got Marmoush going to AFCON and things like that. Does that increase the minutes for someone like Savinho? You never know. Maybe that's an option as a transfer, Sarr to Savinho around that point. And say one that impacts me the most, my only AFCON player right now is Mbeumo. Ideally, I'd keep him all the way up to AFCON because Tottenham, Everton, Palace, West Ham, Wolves, Bournemouth is a nice run. But we already spoke about the fact that Man United play the Monday against Bournemouth. So I think for me, my decision is when do I sell him? He's hard because I say you want to use all your transfers by the game week 15 deadline. Mbeumo has Wolves in game week 15. That's really hard to sell there. But equally, do you want to use your 5 free transfers or the top-up transfers, however you want to word that? Logic would say keep Mbeumo and sell him in game week 16. But I have to be aware that, I say, depending on who I choose to replace him with, if I'm expecting to downgrade him and use the money to upgrade someone else, that's going to take 2 transfers in game week 16. Do I want to do that? So I've got some decisions to make around Mbeumo in the sense that we'll have to sacrifice him against Wolves for the greater good. Or do I just think he's going to do that well against Wolves that he might get multiple attacking returns, double-figure returns, like 10, 15 points? And that's worth then delaying the transfer into that batch in game week 16. So underneath that, Newcastle, nice entry point, I think, game week 13 onwards. Although attacking-wise, their numbers have been a bit off lately. Gordon owners obviously getting a bit frustrated now. It was highlighted on the pod last week as having quite poor data. But maybe something to reassess in game week 13. The likes of him, Voltamada, he's probably going to be high on radar for those that own Njai, Sarr, Mbeumo, people like that Gordon would be a midfielder with high upside, playing for a team with good fixtures that you could bring in at that point. Man City as well, game week 13 is the start of their good run. Probably Brentford as well. And Bournemouth maybe a little bit early, although most of us already own Semenyo and Senesi. Do we want 3 Bournemouth? Maybe they're not that good that it warrants a triple up. But for those that just want to get off their AFCON players earlier, maybe Bournemouth is a consideration before that. So, yeah, a bit of a shorter pod today, just a little spotlight at the end to go over the key points again. The actual AFCON tournament begins in what is FPL game week 17, but we get our top-up transfers ahead of the game week 16 deadline. We don't know yet if those players going to AFCON will participate in game week 16. As we discussed, certain teams, it's more likely than others, particularly if they play sort of 23rd or 24th of December as their first AFCON game. Those playing on the 22nd, it's unlikely. Those that play for Egypt or Nigeria, it's unlikely because they have a friendly arranged. Might also mean they miss game week 15. So ideally, you want to use all of your FPL transfers by game week 15 to get the full benefit of the 3 additional ones in game week 16. So really, you don't want to be rolling transfers through game week 15. Use them all by game week 15, and then you'll get obviously a free 1 in 16 plus 4 additionals. And then just be aware of Manchester United. They have Monday night games in game week 15 and game week 16. What does that mean, particularly for Mbeumo and Ahmad? Does that mean they're less likely to play in that game and get international call-ups instead? So that's it for this pod. A little bit of a shorter one for this week, but thought it was worthy to start talking about AFCON now. Start thinking about moves now, and have it on your mind that, for me in particular, I think when I play FPL, I'm trying to plan 3-4 game weeks ahead. I'm looking at upcoming fixture runs. I'm looking at players that maybe I don't want at that point. AFCON coincides with Christmas. Christmas is obviously a period again with lots of fixtures, more rotation, etc., etc. I do think we want to go into this period with a full playing squad. So those that have got maybe a non-playing striker, if you've got Mark Dewey still as your third striker, I think you might want to address that. Maybe that's these 5 additional transfers, and selling AFCON players might give you some funds to upgrade those players. But yeah, just trying to get ahead of some bandwagons here and getting ahead of some thought process that I think it's probably worth getting your spreadsheets ready, having a plan on when you want to move your AFCON players out, which players you might want in their place, and making sure that you've got plans for all of your free transfers between now and game week 15. Obviously, injuries can occur, which might change your plan, but I think it's good to have a plan that even if you're quite happy with your squad, there's opportunity here to move some of those sort of weaker players. Like I've got Alderate right now. I don't particularly mind having him. Sunderland's fixtures are horrible for the next batch, though. If I want someone better than him to cover Christmas, that might be a chance to use a transfer on that. Equally, if you feel like you're on the wrong 8th attacker, like I've got Dewsbury Hall, I think he's fine. Is he better than Xhaka as the 8th attacker? Maybe not. Are there other cheaper midfielders? If you want to stick in the same sort of structure, but you've just got the wrong player, you've got the wrong 4 million defender, you've got the wrong budget midfielder, might be an opportunity to fix that here, because you're going to get these additional transfers. And if your squad's fairly settled at the minute, you're going to have all your free transfers between now and game week 15, rather than, let's say we're trained at the moment to store them up. But in this particular block of games, we need to use them. So be seriously consider that you might want to then upgrade some of your fringe players, your 4th defender, your 5th defender, your 8th attacker, because there's an opportunity here to do it. And it's almost for free, because otherwise you'll end up not getting a free top-up of additional transfers. That's it for this week. No big sort of talking points other than that. As always, if you've got any topics you want me to discuss, if you can leave a comment on the video, that would be good. I can take the feedback on board. Other than that, I'll be back next week with another pod. It might be AFCON related, it might not be, but I'll definitely do something else around it before game week 15. Good luck all other than that, and I will speak to you all soon. Cheers.